what's happened and what's happening. So last week we did Cell with RMZ and Subatomic Saber. They basically answered a couple of questions, gave him a score out of 10 on certain points, and then gave him a final power level, which ended up being 77 out of 110. So not bad. Not bad. Probably slightly more than I thought it was going to be. He's the first character we've done. He's the only character we've done. So it's early days. And again, I'm probably going to say this multiple times through the podcast, but shout out to Sage and Rudi for jumping on.
No problem.
I'm basically just going to ask them a bunch of the same questions that I asked RMZ and Subatomic, but this time obviously about Trunks and not Cell. There's going to be about 10 points, probably take about an hour or so. But yeah, as soon as Sage is ready, we can just kick it off.
Wow. I still need to catch up with what happened last week. I did watch a bit of it this morning, or at least listen to a bit of it, and just to get an idea of what goes on.
Every time
it sounded pretty fun. It sounded pretty fun with Subatomic and RMZ last week, so I'm gonna have to fully catch up later on after this one and see what went on exactly.
Yeah, they were pretty. I was afraid Rams might downplay Cell, but he didn't. He did probably the opposite. He was like, "Yo, Cell is the best at this straight up." So it turned out all right. There was a couple of issues. That's why it lasted about an hour and a half, where some of the points needed to be like defined a little bit better. They were a little bit too vague, so they weren't sure how to mark them. But thanks to them, today's one should be a lot smoother. I can be more precise with the questions in there. I want to chuck a poll up in the chat so these guys can get involved as well. But you know about stream chat.
Sounds good. So everything you're saying is, so all of the questions are going to be marked out of 10, and then that's all just collated, is it? Or do you do any kind of extra maths around that to calculate the power level?
Yeah, basically it's out of 10. There's a couple that are going to be out of 5. Mostly, I'm going to ask you where Trunks. So out of 5, Trunks is the point character. Out of 5, Trunks is the mid character. But for the most part, all the questions are going to be out of 10. You can do 7.2 if you want. It doesn't matter. I'm cool with the decimal points. But yeah, it'll basically be, I'll ask you the question. You and Sage talk about it, discuss it, come up with an answer, and I'll chuck it in the spreadsheet.
Awesome. Sounds good. I'm good to go.
Yeah, cool. Sage.
I'm now good. Yeah.
6-6. Cool. Right. So let's go straight into it. We're going to start with pretty normal stuff. Damn, I did a bot. So we're going to start with normals. Trunks. So this is the criteria that I was kind of looking for the answer. So out of 10, what would you mark Trunks' length of strings and mix potential with normals?
When you say what
Oh, hold on. Let me turn Sage up a little bit.
Yeah, my bad. Let me also turn off this music. I had music playing. Sorry.
That's all good. It's all good. So yeah, basically with Trunks, what would you say out of 10, or what would you mark him out of 10 when it comes to mix-up potential with his normals? So in this case, his auto combo would be a normal. So how good is his mix from the auto combo, and how good is he when it comes to pressure strings?
On his own?
Like
with assists?
We'll say with assists.
It's definitely like, it has to be at least above 8. The only issue is that he requires like, you know, he has to spend an EX move and an assist to get like a good mix-up, and that's kind of an issue, but the mix-up is really good. That is the other thing. So, it's hard for me to say. I'd probably say around an 8 or a 9.
Damn, starting off high. I mean, the Cell one started off at a 9.3, so this is still lower than that. But a 9. I mean, from my perspective as a non-Trunks player, I think he saw normals. are pretty good when it comes to range, so it's quite easy for him to get the block string started. His 2M is a slide. It seems pretty finicky at times. It's a little bit slow, but it is still a slide, so he can get his mix started with his normals. That's how it feels for me. So I'd probably say 8, 7.
Word.
What you say?
Yeah, like
Rudi?
getting. Yeah.
Yeah, if I had to give that out of 10, it would be maximum a 7. Reason why it's lower than what you think is because you said that it's easy for him to start his mix, but most of his mix comes from the auto combo. So regardless if he starts with a medium or a heavy, you would at least need to use another assist to guarantee the blocks and to get that light into mix up. So I wouldn't say that he's great in that aspect. You do have to be very close by. You'd have to get at least an instant air dash of some sort or a guaranteed safe jump, and then you can run your mix. So that's why I gave it a 7, because you do have to be close range, and then getting into that range, you might get reflected if you try and go for the safe jump and stuff. So it's not always guaranteed, but when you do get it, it is pretty solid. So that's why I gave it a 7.
I think like I see what you're saying, especially like in the corner. Like if you have your opponent cornered, his mix up is like much weaker unless he can go into auto combo. But I think mid screen, like even if you engage with, let's say, the slide or like another normal, you're still able to it would be able to cancel the EX flip and call your assist for left or right. Like it doesn't always have to be off of auto combo. Like in the corner, it actually always have to be off of auto combo. So that is an issue. Because in the corner, like there's no left right mix unless you're able to make them block auto combo.
So should we could split it down the middle and go 7.5, 7.5?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, it's probably 7.5, 7.5 to 8. Sure, somewhere around there.
Cool. Let me punch that in. Actually, let me ask you the next question while you answer that. So the next point on normals is coverage and frame data. Again, this is out of 10, and it's only taking in consideration Trunks' normals. So out of 10, how would you rank his normals when it comes to coverage on the screen? Like we said, like his H normals are pretty good in my opinion, and his frame data.
This one would be really low in my opinion. His normals are alright, but the only safe normal that he's got is like, is it 5 out or is it just 5 out? Keep again.
Yeah, both his lights are his only safe normals, and not even complete auto combo is safe. Like 5 LLL is -7. All of his normals are unsafe except for 5L and 2L. I can actually check right now just to make sure that his 5LL, the bazooka knee, is let me see. It is, yeah, it's also -7. So his only safe normals are 2L and 5L, which is really bad, honestly. But he does have, like, his jumping normals are very strong though. Like his JM hitbox super good, JH super good hitbox, and his 5S is amazing, and his JS is also really good. Other than that, like in terms of like you have your opponent blocking and you want to like form any kind of stagger pressure, it's really difficult because it's always a risk if you do anything past your 5L or 2L. Like you try and do 5LL and then 5M, and then you try to stagger into 5L again. It's like that 5M is -9. You know what I mean? Super risky.
Damn, I didn't know
Unlike
that bad.
most,
That's crazy.
yeah, unlike most characters where they're 5M, a lot of characters 5Ms are safe on block, and even a lot of characters 2Ms are safe on block. But Trunks does not have that. Does not have that luxury.
What do you think, Rudi? Do you think? I mean, this is one of the few topics on this podcast without going to be like, you can't argue with the numbers. Like -9 is bad, just straight up. You can't really defend it. But could you say, instead of marking him really low down because of the minus on the frame data, maybe the range and the coverage of his normals kind of make up for it?
I mean, the 5M is good though, because it is a 9-frame. It's a 9-frame medium, and
Right.
it's definitely very good for like it. It doesn't go super far, but the fact that it's 9 frames is a good thing for how far it goes. But it's also good because of a lot of his left-right mix-ups involve you using 5M. And if 5M was any slower, like if it was any slower than 9 frames, then his left-right would be a lot less damaging. But he can actually go for left-right mix-ups with his 5M, and that's a medium starter, which is super strong. But that's like the real strength of his 5M.
Yeah, I don't think there's many characters with like a quicker 5M, right? There's Krillin.
Yeah, some characters, I'm trying to think. I think Adult Gohan's 5M is 9 frames as well, which is like ridiculous.
Yeah, he doesn't need that.
Yeah. He's like one of the only characters I could think of off the top of my head that have a 9-frame 5M. Like a lot of other characters is much slower, like 10 to 11. 10 to 11 frame startup on their 5Ms.
Right.
And then Trunks's other strong normals. I mean, like one of his strongest normals is definitely 5S. It's definitely one of the best key blasts in the game for sure. Because it has higher projectile durability than other key blasts, so it'll just eat up any other key blast pretty much in the game, and also can strike the opponent. Like, there could be 3 key blasts on the screen, and if Trunks gets his 5S out in time, he'll shoot through all 3 key blasts and hit the opponent, which is like super strong and neutral. And his jump heavy is super big. His JM is also very large too. But like, if we're talking about just the frame advantage on block, like a lot of his normals are pretty bad in that regard.
Yeah, so I'd say they kind of not cancel each other out, but some of his normals, especially just his jumping normals, as Sage has just mentioned, they do make up for the bad frames on the standing ones. So in terms of for punishes, etc., for clash situations, his normals are fantastic. But for anything other than that, for staggering, nope, you won't be able to do that. So there's both positives and negatives. So there's no way that for this category he's going to be very high up in terms of the power level. So personally, I would say it would be like around a 6 altogether if you factor everything in.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's probably like a 6 or a 7, like with heavily carried to the 7 point with his S and his jumping normals for sure. And the fact that, I mean, also the fact that his auto combo pulls you out of the corner is also like a really big thing, because not a lot of characters have something like that. That's like another reason why he's carried to 7, because other than that, a lot of his normals aren't that great.
Right. You want to do a split down the middle again? Go for 6.5?
6.5 sounds good, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, although I'd still be more towards a 6, just to try and downplay him a bit.
Oh, no. So you want to try and downplay? I'm definitely making a 6.5 then.
Oh, shit.
You did that in season 1, man. Right. So that's the normals out of the way. 7.5 then 6.5. Let's go to specials. Again, 2 points. They're both going to be marked out of 10. Out of 10, space control. How the specials cover the screen and used to apply pressure. In this case, I didn't really think about this, but I don't know how we're going to incorporate Cyclone into this, because it's not a physical, but you can use it for controlling space, technically. I I mean, you two are the Trunks experts, so you tell me. Like, if you don't want to include Cyclone, then that's cool. But yeah, it's about space control. Obviously, Change the Future comes to mind, but yeah, Cyclone Flip is also another special. I don't know how you would think about using that as a space control tool. I mean, obviously for applying pressure with assist, it's really good. But yeah, what would you say his specials are out of 10 when it comes to space control?
Straight away, there's no way that this would be below an 8, in my opinion. He's got way too many tools when it comes to controlling that space. Obviously, change the feature, change the neutral, just covers the whole screen. 5S, like Sage has just mentioned, it just goes through a lot of key blasts. I've had it actually just beat out Ultra Instinct's 5S today as well.
Wow.
So yeah, it is really strong. Cyclone as well, if you're just talking about just controlling the space, just flipping around, obviously at the cost of half a bar, 50% off, and all that considered, they're just not able to do the same back. No one's able to, for example, King Gohan's not able to do 5S full screen. You having to do an EX flip from the other side of the screen, whiffing a jump H, them thinking shit, I'm gonna get bodied, and then they vanish, and they're still in reach of you getting to H. That's just really strong. He's just got way too many things. He can either keep away or use that Cyclone to come in. So I'd give him a 9 for that. Like, straight up, there's no question about that. He can just do way too many things from any part of the screen. And the fact that now the meter is 0.5 bars, you don't really have to worry about, crap, I'm going to have to use this effectively to get a hit. You can just use it to bait out, whether it's they're spamming 2 H's or just gauging what they do in certain situations. You can just you can freely play around with that meter without having to worry about losing resources at any part of the game.
Sure. I actually just right now set the training dummy to and 5S does beat Ultra Instinct Goku's 5S, which is actually ridiculous. I did not know that.
Crazy.
Legitimately Ultra Instinct Goku could press the button first, and then Trunks could press S and he'll still win. But yeah, Trunks, as Rudi was saying, like, Cyclone Flip definitely allows you to control space in a way that like a lot of other characters can't, because you're able to, you have a lot of freedom over how you move the flip, combined with the fact that his jump heavy is so big. You're actually able to like just traverse the screen super quickly with such a large hitbox, and it's just when used properly, it actually makes the opponent scared to stand at certain it makes the opponent think twice about throwing out high recovery moves, even from full screen, like trying to throw out beams or any other kind of move that has high recovery. Trunks can actually he can, on reaction, use his flip to try and get a punish on these moves, but even just a preemptive flip, if you see that they're about to, they've used their double jump already, and that they kind of have to land or choose an air option, this is like a perfect time for Trunks to quickly EX flip right at his opponent with JH. And as Rudi was saying too, if they think Vanish is going to save themselves, a lot of the time Trunks is moving so fast that he reaches the ground in time to still anti-air the Vanish. And Change the Future is an incredible space control tool. Not only does it have such a large hitbox, but it moves Trunks forward. So anytime you throw it out, you're subtly pushing your opponent towards the corner, especially if Change the Future hits them. Confirming Change the Future into Vanish on hit is pretty difficult, but you can be content with the hit just off the fact that you're pushing them to the corner and you deal 900 damage. Another thing about Change the Future is that it has Key Blast immunity. So there's times where the opponent thinks they can control space with their Key Blast, but Trunks can actually use Change the Future to not only bring himself closer to his opponent, but actually just truck any kind of Key Blast. And since Change the Future's hitbox goes towards the air, even characters like Vegeta that like to throw their ki blast from the sky, they're still vulnerable to getting hit by Change the Future. It's not just a move that denies space on the ground, but it denies space in the air too. And yeah, other special moves. I mean, Trunks has Masenko. It's a pretty standard beam, but combine what 5S and Change the Future, it's just a lot to deal. It's a lot to think about in neutral, and the fact that he can quickly travel the screen with EX flip to close the gap on his opponent. Also, makes it hard for you to even try to take space against Trunks on point when he is on point. And another move we haven't talked about yet is Shining Slash. And Shining Slash, the light and the EX versions aren't too great at controlling space, but the medium one, the fact that it tracks, does have use at controlling space. It does have a really high hitbox, and like it has a really tall hitbox. So there's a lot of times where you can even throw it out, and since it tracks the opponent, they are susceptible to getting hit by it while they're retreating. Like they can think they're retreating from the attack, but the hitbox is so big and the tracking is good enough that a lot of times they'll still get clipped by it.
Yeah,
I completely forgot about Shining Slash.
yeah, I was about to say the same thing. People in the chat were saying, "Oh yeah, he's got Shining Slash as well."
Yeah, I was like, no, I was already focused on everything else that he's got, and I'm like, oh, that's you don't even need to include that. It's like a little cherry on top, innit? But yeah,
for real, it really is a cherry on top. And yeah, I would probably say his space control on his special moves definitely is like a 9 at the very least. At the very least, it's a 9. It might be higher, it might be a 10, but I think 9 is a good spot.
Yeah, Rudi, you was happy with a 9, right?
I was happy with a 9. I mean, there's always room for improvement. There's always something that can be buffed. So giving it a 10 is a bit too much, isn't it?
Is it?
So we can only hope.
There was like about 10 minutes of talk, and I didn't hear one flaw. I'm not gonna lie. That sounded all good, and there's like, what flaw does he have in? So he's got Masenko, Cyclone, Change the Future, and Shining Slash, right?
Yeah.
I think that's it. Is there anything bad about those moves?
Okay, so the reason why I wouldn't give it a 10 is because I know there's some characters that have moves that control space just as well and are easier to hit confirm. Whereas Trunks, like, confirming off a 5S that only hits one time and confirming off Change the Future that also only hits one time, as great as these moves are to control space, they don't always lead to the highest reward. A lot of times the reward, you have to be content with just the hit, like just the damage you get from the hit. And that's still very good, but I think that's exactly what stops him from being a 10.
I can see that. I've had the same conversation about Frieza with his splash. It's like, yeah, splash is really good, but you have to guess on the vanish. You can't hit confirm it. It's all well and good that it controls that much of the screen, but when you want to get confirmed, you are guessing. You can't hit confirm splash. So I understand what you mean about, yeah, the tool's good, but converting it into something meaningful is very hard, if not impossible. That you have to just guess sometimes.
Yeah, I think they can be hit confirmed. I'm sure I've shown this a few times, but you do have to be on like bare cans of Red Bull for you to do that. So
For real, you gotta be on, man.
It's possible, but it is hard. And I'm getting a bit old as well, so that's obviously making my reactions a bit slower. But like Sage has just mentioned, yes, there are specials that allow you to do that and for it to be easy to hit. Come on, look at base Vegeta. He's got 236H, the EX kick, and you can do another one after that after it hits. You've got so much time, and you get extra damage from it as well. So yeah, I wouldn't put it any higher than 9, because even though they are strong, you still need to be on top of every time you press that button, every time you input that, for example, change the future for you to get anything substantial out of it.
That's cool. I think that's fair. Yeah, I mean, yeah, the chat's gonna have to hold that. A lot of them did want a 10, but now that you've explained some of the flaws, that's cool. I think a 9's fair. The next bit is unique properties on these specials. Again, I think it's mostly Cyclone Flip, unless there's special properties on like Change the Future stuff that I don't know about. And by special, I mean like kind of unique to the card. So, is there something Trunks can do that only Trunks can do, and other characters can't really emulate that? And yeah, just mark it out of 10. So, I mean, yeah, outside of maybe I guess you could say Change the Future for like certain setups, but yeah, used to let me know if there's anything.
Yeah, the key invulnerability that he gets from 5H and 2H, I guess, is unique. I don't think any other characters got that.
Yeah, I don't think some characters do have. I think some of the other Sword normal characters, they could cut through Key Blast with their 5Hs and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But it's definitely something unique to only a few characters in the game. But Trunks is Change the Future having Key Blast immunity, and the assist having Key Blast immunity is something that's very unique to Trunks. Very good. There's not a lot of assists that actually will just truck like any Key Blast, except for like Broly. I think Broly may be one of the only assists to do that. Can't think of anyone else that's not a DP assist. That just specifically the assist is made to beat Key Blast.
I can't think of any.
But even then, I wouldn't really I wouldn't really rate it that highly. At least from the normals point of view, because there's a bit of startup first before that immunity comes in. So in a lot of situations, you're not really going to use it. I only randomly get it when I'm doing the OB assassin instant back air dash, into the corner and just mashing jump H, and then suddenly I'm just smacking one of the Key Blasts away, or getting that reflected. Aside from that, you're not really going to be doing that on purpose. I mean, I think I've had that happen actually against Adult Gohan, but only because his Key Blast is really bad. If he does like EX legs, 2H into EX legs, and then he tries to Key Blast to try and bait you, and you're doing 2H, in that instance it would work, but it's against really bad Key Blasts, or at least slow ones, where my 2H is able to come out in time at least. But for the most part, for that, yeah, it's unique, but it's not something that's going to be used on purpose a lot of the time. It's going to be something that's going to be accidental, I think, most of the time. What do you think, Sage?
Yeah, the heavy Key Blast immunity, like him cutting through Key Blast, is definitely something that it's more of just like they put it in the game for it to be like a cool thing. It wasn't really meant to be like something that really changes matchups at all, or anything like that. But Change the Future having Key Blast immunity definitely changes a lot of matchups, in my opinion.
I can agree with that. Yeah, that's definitely correct.
And especially the assist having the Key Blast immunity is like the biggest matchup changer, in my opinion. Changes a ton of matchups in the game.
I know it's not really a big deal, but for some reason I can't picture this happening. If you do fake Change the Future, does that also have the Key Blast reflect?
Oh, it does.
Okay.
Yeah, it does.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that seems pretty good. In certain matchups, I mean, overall, people are normally just chucking out beams or calling assist and vanishing. But yeah, there's some characters like Base Vegeta and Tohans that will like try to control space for 5S. So, do you know? Well, you would know. That's what I'm gonna ask you to. Can you do reflect into it?
Reflect into
Change the Future.
Change the Future? Yes. Like if let's say Vegeta's assist is raining down on you, if you reflect the first part, and then instead of reflecting again, you buffer Change the Future, you will just dash through the rest of it and blow it up. Blow up Vegeta. It's actually really good. Even in times where you're the point character and you're reflecting Vegeta's assist, and while you're reflecting Vegeta's assist, you call Trunks' assist, Trunks will dash through and save you. If, the opponent's point character hasn't already got you to block something.
So what we thinking out of 10 points wise? think he?
Trunks is unique.
Yeah.
Trying to think of what else he has that's unique. I mean, he does have a movement option that's very unique. Like he basically has an extra jump, and he has EX Flip is a crazy unique move in itself, where like you have a lot of freedom over it. There's not a lot of moves like that in the game, and trying to think what else. I think Heat Dome Attack is also a pretty unique move. Because the way that, I mean, I don't use it this way yet, but I've seen Rudi use it where he will, for instance, he'll call Bardock's B assist, and Bardock's B assist has a lot of startup, and it's very deceptive as to when the B assist is actually about to strike you, and right before it strikes you, he'll use the Heat Dome Attack level 3, and Trunks' level 3 is it's not a real command throw in that if you try to grab someone raw, they can always jump out after the screen flash. Another thing to know about Trunks' level 3 is his screen flash is actually like the shortest of any other super. So like that's why sometimes people still get grabbed by it, because the screen flash is actually so quick and they're just not prepared for it. They also could just not know. But the thing is that when you use it the way Rudi does it, it's actually a mix-up, because the level 3 comes and you know you can jump it because it's not a real command throw, but the assist is there, and it's a mix because he can time the assist to where the assist catches your pre-jump, you're trying to jump, and then the level 3 combos. But if you think that you know, he could time it to where the grab actually comes first. So if you try to sit there because you think the assist is coming first, then you get grabbed. And I think that's a situation that not a lot of characters could really create in the exact same way that Trunks can with his level 3. Because a lot of command grabs won't combo if the assist hits. You know what I mean?
It sounds like Trunks is gonna have to get quite a high score. From what you guys are saying, I'm anticipating like a 7 or an 8.
Yeah,
I think a 7 or 8 is good.
Yeah, I would have said 8. I would have said 8 personally. The change of feature stuff is alone is huge, and then if you add Cyclone into that as well, which is unique. No other character has that, then that already bumps up his score pretty highly. So I would say 8, but I'm okay with going 7.5 if you want to split.
I think 8 is good too. I think 8 is also. I think 8 is perfect.
Nice try, Rudy. Try to downplay him again. We're going with 8. Going with the 8. So, right, that's it. That's the normals and specials done. Moving on to supers. Again, it's going to be 2 points, marked out of 10. The first one, DHC scaling and flexibility. Out of 10. So, obviously, again, this is one of the points where you can't really argue it. The numbers don't lie when it comes to the scaling. But flexibility, in terms of, you know, sometimes it's really hard to DHC into someone's level 1, whether it be that they don't track or it doesn't hit very high. We're talking about his level 1 and his level 3. So, yeah, out of 10, how do you think he fares when it comes to scaling and flexibility on his DHC? Either going into Trunks or out of Trunks?
Into and out to, well, out to Trunks, like Trunks' burning attack is like super flexible. You could kind of DHC into almost anything you want after burning attack. It's a very standard, you know, big bang attack. Just one hitting, just like Bardock's. It has a really big hitbox too compared to those. Like compared to Bardock's level 1 and like Vegeta's level 1, which are very similar. Trunks' burning attack actually is huge compared to those. It doesn't really make that much of a difference, but sometimes it can when you need to, for certain DHC synergies, having a bigger super like that is good. And I also think that I mean, his super scaling is super good. His level 3 only scales as 2 hits. So like even at max scaling it does a lot of damage. and his level 1 also does a lot of damage even at max scaling. And the only thing is that Trunks is level 3. For some characters, it's hard for him to combo to DHC into his level 3. Like for another character, if one character does their super and then Trunks has to do level 3, it doesn't always work. Some supers, some level 1s like just don't allow you to get it. But a lot of like the strong characters in the game allow Trunks to get it. So it's hard for me to say like where that where I'd rate that particular part with going into Trunks level 3. Cause like for example, like my team, like it's super easy for Trunks to get level 3, but I know for some teams it's actually not easy for Trunks to get level 3. The other thing is that Trunks, ideally you want a way to switch sides, and because Trunks level 3 is best done mid screen, because he gets a lot of he gets a really good setup off of it mid screen. So him doing his level 3 in the corner is much less threatening. So it's kind of hard for me to say.
What are you saying, Rudy? What do you think about it? DHC in and out of him, flexibility of connecting like level 1s and level 3s?
Yeah, so I agree with what Sage was saying there about going into level 1 or going from level 1 into another super. That's perfectly fine, and it does a crap load of damage. I mean, both of them, both level 1 and level 3 from Trunks, they do a load of damage. So that's all great. But in terms of flexibility, I'd say it's pretty bad, in the sense that you can't always get level 3. You can't, for example, do a combo with Whitefang mid-screen and then call DHC to level 3 Trunks, obviously without using Whitefang level 1, because they're just going to be on the other side of the screen, and Trunks will just do it, way far away from them and not catch them. So that's the biggest issue, is that you can't go straight into level 3. You would have to go into level 1 and level 3, or just go into Trunks level 1 and be content with that. That's the only problem. Unless you're in the corner. So it depends on positioning a lot of the time. But in general, I mean, I have had this issue where I just have to choose one of either. I either spend too much meter or too little meter, and then obviously have, for example, Trunks on point, he's got more life than Bardock. That's great, but then I could have had the kill had I been able to do straight, level 3. And being in a even better position. So I think overall, it's kind of, even although I'd say it's more on the downside. I think especially if you're doing, for example, if you're going into Trunks level 1 into another level 1, and you slightly delay it because, let's say, you think that the first one's going to kill, they get propped up, or at least the enemy gets propped up, and then that DHC might whiff. But thankfully with Bardock you can aim it up. But for a lot of characters, they're not going to have that luxury of aiming their level 1s. So in general, I would say, yeah, it's all right, but not as good as it could have been. For example, someone like Bardock has got the perfect ability to DHC in and out. That would have been good, but Trunks doesn't have that luxury. So I would probably give Trunks something like a 5.5. It wouldn't be high at all, but the damage is great, but the flexibility really lets it down. So I'd probably give it a 5.5 or a 6 maximum, but I'd still want to be around the 5.5 mark.
Okay, I mean, okay. I'm pretty sure you're both gonna score him high on the next point about supers, but are we cool with 6, 5.5? What are you saying, Sage? Which one would you want to pick?
I think 6 is pretty good, because I still think the strength of his level 1 kind of carries him, and then the downsides to his level 3 DHC, I mean, there are a lot of downsides, but I think the level 1 being just like the very staple level 1 of the game, you just shoot one big ball of plasma, it carries it to 6 points, I think.
Cool. Well, I mean, this part, again, sticking to the super subject, we're talking about setups and damage. So this is without like the DHC scaling. So it will be either in the combo or just raw. And the setups you get from his level 1 and level 2. I mean, from his level 1, I'm pretty sure you don't get anything, but I think everyone knows what the kind of shenanigans he gets from his level 3. So what we're gonna say with this out of 10.
Wait, so is the question just what he gets from post level 3 setups?
Yeah, basically.
Damage.
Yeah, setups and damage.
After his level 1 and level 3.
Yeah.
Okay. I think so after level 1, I mean, you cause a soft knockdown. I actually just want to look at the number real quick because at the game open, I just want to see what the frame advantage is real fast. Okay, so after the level 1, if they tech immediately, okay, so Trunks has 18 frames of advantage, which is really bad. But I'll tell you what, there's something that Trunks can do because he has changed the future. So something that they do with, let's just say Bardock, right? I'm sure we all know that when you DHC the Bardock, Bardock kind of spawns farther from his opponent than usual. Like, if you were to knock someone down in the corner, and let's say you did like, you know, you launch someone, and then you do light into, you know, a sliding knockdown, and then you the super, your point character, and then the next super is like Bardock super, let's say, right? Bardock spawns really far from the corner, right? I'm sure we've all seen this before. And then if you were to DHC the Trunks right there, and now Trunks does his level 1 from farther in the corner, and even though Trunks only has 18 frames of advantage, if he immediately does change the future, it covers all that space in the corner. So I think like it depends on how you build the team, but Trunks is level 1, even though he doesn't get like any like super strong setup, he can maintain, like, he can at least force his opponent to block afterward with change the future, but that's all he's really capable of doing. And it requires the spacing to be like, they have to be in the corner, and you can't be right on top of them. You have to be like at the range where you're at the tip of change the future. But that's really all he gets. He just gets a relatively low risk meaty with change the future after his level 1 with the proper spacing. But it's nothing to brag. It's nothing to like write home about. It's just something that he has. But his level 3 though, his level 3 is super strong. The situation he gets afterward, but the situation, you have to be mid screen to get it, and that is the problem. There has to be an opportunity to get on the left and the right of your opponent. So a lot of times, like with the way the game flows and stuff, like a lot of the combos, you know, you tend to just take your opponent to the corner, and your goal is to just leave them there. With Trunks, if you want to go into his level 3 and you want the situation afterward to be threatening, you need to find a way to take them out of the corner, and that could be an issue for certain teams.
What do you think, Rudi?
Yeah, level 1, post level 1, I don't really go for anything, to be honest. For the most part, I just accept that my position isn't going to be that great. So aside from anything basic like change of future, you're not really going to get much. But level 3, yeah, it's great, it's fantastic as long as you're in the right position, but you're having to spend a minimum of 3.5 bars and then still have half a bar on top of that, or spend 4 bars and then have a half a bar on top of that for the flip. So if you're cornered, for example, you do the level 3 when they're cornered, you're gonna have to vanish to get the corner. If you're mid screen, then obviously you can go for the regular EX flip to get the mid screen level 3. So obviously everything is going to be situational. Sometimes the combo is going to carry them to the corner. You're going to think that actually the EX flip is going to let you switch sides, but then it doesn't. So there's a lot of situational awareness that you have to take into account as you're doing that, and then sometimes that might not work out just because of a slight miscalculation, and you have to spend more than you need to get the mix up. So from his level 3, yes, he gets a very good mix up, but then yes, you have to spend a lot of resources, and the fact that you use half a bar or you use an EX means that you're not going to be getting meter back for a while. So for if you do a flip mix, manage to get change of future, this is like the best case scenario, you get the change of future combo in the corner, you will not get meter until right at the end when you're doing probably the last jumping S into Shining Slash. So a lot of the times you're using a lot of meter to get the mix, but you won't have meter to kill them off unless you manage to get like a nice starter like a 2M, for example.
Right.
So it's good, but it's still meter heavy unless you get the optimal starting hit. So let's say you get a 2M starting hit, and then you mix them. Yes, you might be able to kill them without any meter, but if you don't, it's a bit difficult to get that unless you've got assists to back you up right at the end. So it's good and bad at the same time. Well, not bad, but it's just there's negatives to it. That's the only thing.
It's expensive, right? So it's a lot of resources to spend for a strong mix, but then you're like, well, I've spent all these resources, I've got a really dirty mix, but now I've got no resources to kill because you spent all your meter to set up, sort of thing. Is that kind of what you're talking about?
Yeah, for the most part, yes, that's right.
Sure. Another thing that like really ruins it too is like let's say you get like a combo mid-screen and you're able to DHC into chunks, and even if you have enough meter for the EX flip mix-up that happens after his level 3, if they block the mix-up, and a lot of times you will not get your assist back fast enough to perform another mix-up that would require another EX flip. You know what I'm saying? It's just like he eats up your resources so much, and by resources I'm also talking about his assist. Like he eats up your assist and your meter like in an instant. Like it's kind of like a hit and run, so to speak, where like you're kind of like you're gonna use, like you built up all this meter and now you have both your assists and now you're gonna use it all like super quickly, and if the opponent actually blocks your mix up, then it feels really shitty because you're like, wow, I had to do all this and then the payoff was absolutely nothing.
All that scheming for them to do wake up spark, and then it's like, damn, I guess you go back to neutral.
Yeah, like I'm about to spend this EX flip to mix you, and then you're gonna spark, and now I'm assistless for a few seconds because I just DHC'd the trunks, and your offensive presence is just so overwhelming right now, and I don't even have my partner actions to help me fight you for the next few seconds. So like,
it's
kind
like
of
7.
That's another thing as well. Sorry. The fact that when they have spark as well, and you're like, do I go for it or do I try and bait spark? And it's a little. You don't want to waste, half a bar just to think that they're gonna spark, and then they don't. They just sit there waiting for it because they either expect you to mess up or they expect you to try and bait the spark anyway. So in those situations as well, it's very frustrating. But yeah, once they block it, for the most part, it's like a good guess, isn't it? But when they do block it, it's like, what do I do now? I've used all these resources, I've got no assists, it's just completely back. Because once you do the jump L, you have to do at least like a 5L to try and confirm. You're not just going to do a jump L and do nothing after that. You can't confirm from that. So once you've done that, you just have to either finish off his string, do a backflip, and that's it. Your turn's like completely done. You just have to wait out. There's no way that you're gonna get anything back by trying to stagger. And we've already spoken before that his stagger game is just non-existent. And with the changes that they made for season 3 as well, there's no way that you're gonna stagger enough for the assists to come back. So at that point, it is definitely like a stalemate situation.
Yeah. And I mean another thing too is we already talked about it, but like if if it's a situation where like okay, you are using a character on your team that's not Trunks, and like let's say it's two of your characters alive. You have let's say in my case I have Bardock and Trunks alive, and I want to get a hard knockdown right now, and I only have 4 bars in meter, and I have to do like and I do Bardock's, and I want to max damage, right? And I would do Bardock's level 1 and then Trunks level 3. Now I have no meter for EX flip, and then it's like it's it's like your options after that are very limited to just like the universal options in the game, and sometimes it's just not enough to make the Oki like threatening. You know what I mean? Like there's not like a super high threat other than a safe jump, a dragon rush, or like shining slash. Um, but I will say this something that uh I do. Okay, so as we were saying, you have to be mid screen, or there has to be a gap in the corner for you to go for the left right with Trunks' EX flip. But if you do have to level 3 with Trunks when they're in the corner, Trunks does have a decent situation for baiting sparking because when he backdashes after his level 3 in the corner, he still maintains a good amount of plus frames to where he can meaty them with his slide, since it has so much range. And this is good because when he backdashes in the corner after his level 3, he's actually outside of their sparking range. So the opponent now is discouraged from using sparking. And from that spot, he has a slide and he has overhead. He has Shining Slash that will reach them. And on top of that, he can use Dragon Rush and he can also use 5S. Because if he chooses to Dragon Rush or Shining Slash or 2M and the opponent sparks, then, Trunks gets blown away. But if Trunks backdashes and presses 5S, he doesn't move at all. He's still outside of sparking range. And a lot of times, meta right now, not the meta right now, but for a lot of players, like their reaction is if they get hit with a level 3 and this next hit's going to kill them, they wait for the first thing that they block and then they spark. And if Trunks uses 5S as the meaty and they happen to spark on the 5S, Trunks can then just cancel into 5H as a punish. And just the fact that Trunks can keep himself outside of sparking range and like poke you with 5S is really good. It sets up a lot of things. A lot of times people like to wake up reflect tag, and if they reflect Trunks' 5S, it's Trunks' opportunity to look for the raw tag. You know what I mean? Like he has like a decent situation in the corner, but it's not so much a mix-up as it is sparking containment like strategy where you kind of can discourage them from using sparking after his level 3 in the corner. But it's not like it's not as strong as other characters that have like legit like high lows like base Vegeta or like Bardock in the corner after the level 3. Um, it's more of like there's more player-to-player interaction rather than just running your the program of your Okazeme. Yeah, for sure. Y-
A lot of characters
The
can do that, right? Limit break level 3. Heat dome. I know heat dome does do more damage than most level 3s raw.
yeah, it definitely does.
But does that make up for all the flaws and everything else he does? Rudi, what do you think score number wise? If we go Rudi gives the score, the stage does, and then I'll just split it in the middle. That seems to be how we've been doing it. So
I think like
Yeah.
for me it would probably be like a 7. probably be a 7.
Okay.
I was about to say 7 as well, but Innie said that you're muted, by the way. Apparently.
Oh yeah, I was. I've unmuted myself now. Yeah, safe. Shout out to Innie. I did see that. So we're going with 7. Okay.
Yeah, I'd say 7 as well. But you mentioned the raw damage that he gets from the level 3, but for the most part, players are just not going to get hit by that unless
You're doing your setup.
You just go for the Hail Mary and pray for the best, which does happen, but it doesn't shoot him up. That can happen for any character, getting kind of a Spanish level 3 in. But for the most part,
for sure.
it's not going to work.
Especially for setups, I think in long sets when you can condition people to like respect change of future, then obviously fake change of future into level 3 is good, but that's not something you do in the first to 2.
Of course.
You'll get
For
annihilated.
Sure.
Yeah, it's not a first to 2 strat. It is something that happens, and we've all seen people get hit by it, but that tends to be in either casuals or like long sets. So yeah, that's fair enough. I can see that. So we're coming probably about halfway through. These points are going to be marks out of 5, and they're the positioning on where you'd put Trunks.
How about that?
Shout out to follow. It's going to be point, mid, anchor, each out of 5. I don't know if there's much to talk about with Trunks. I think it's kind of unanimous. Maybe it's not. On where he should be placed on a team. So, Rudi, if you wanna give your mark at 5 and your reasoning, and then we'll pass it on to Sage.
For each of point, mid, and anchor.
Yeah, I mean, let's start with on point, and then give the score. Then we'll go to mid, and then we'll go to anchor. So yeah, let's start on point. Out of 5, what do you think about him?
Point. Even though he needs, obviously, you start off with the 0 bars at the start of the game. You do need meter for mix-ups. I still think that he's got great screen control without having to go in. So if we're talking about offense, obviously that's something completely different. But altogether, if you've got 2 great assists that you can mix off of, and then you do build the meter, I would say he could go up to a 4, potential 4. I'd say it's kind of high, so I might have to go down to like 3.5 because it is pretty high for that. But I do think that with the right resources, he does play pretty well. In any kind of matchup, I'd say he's just great all round. You can either keep away or get in and put the pressure on you and mix you up. So actually, I would go for 3.5 instead of 4, because I do have to take into account the meter that he needs for that.
Right. Cool. Sage, what do you think about Trunks on point out of 5?
Trunks on point. I also agree with Rudi. It's probably a 3.5, but I do think that if like you I think it really depends on the Trunks player, but I think if they are able to it really depends on the matchups too, but I think like on point, Trunks can be threatening if you build the team right, and if the Trunks player is like patient enough to like not be aggressive in the early game before he gets, because once Trunks gets his half a meter, that's when like he can actually hit you with a real mix-up. So it's about being patient enough to build that half a bar, and just rely on his strong neutral tools, because Trunks has like incredibly strong neutral tools, and if you want to like truly play a Trunks point team, you would have assists that could cover the blind spots in his. So like his 5S, right? For example, it's super strong. It goes through it's arguably one of the best key blasts in the game because it goes through all of the key blasts, and it's basically like a mini beam, or so to say, that you can whiff cancel in the vanish. But the thing is that it has a lot of recovery. So if somebody calls you out in the early game, like you're playing a point Trunks, right, where you have no meter to vanish, and you're full screen, and you throw out 5S, it's not like another character where they throw out their key blast and they can choose to throw out a lot, or they can choose to throw out a few. And generally, let's say like Bardock, if I throw a key blast and you perform like a running jump over it, I recover in time to like even move before you've even reached the peak of your jump a lot of the time. With Trunks, if you were to jump over his Ki Blast full screen, and he had no meter to vanish, like you're pretty much guaranteed to jump and punish, which is really bad for him. But ideally, a Trunks team where you played him on point, you would have an anti-air assist prepared for that. But like really, it takes a lot of like you have to be very methodical to play Trunks on point, and really you have to really understand the chaotic neutral in the game and try to control it as best as you can. But I definitely think it's possible, and I think 3.5 is like the best spot for it. But I think like I haven't played it enough, you know what I'm saying? I haven't really tried playing Trunks Point enough, but I feel like there's a team that you could play Trunks Point that he would be a 4 rating, but for the most part, 3.5 is definitely a good spot for him. Sure.
Yeah, you got to take into account as well, because I did play Trunks on point in season 1, and the biggest issue that I had with it was not having anything great round start. That was really, I mean, if we're talking about, okay, you're in neutral, you're on the other side of the screen, you've got space, 3.5 is 100%, but I would knock off some points. I'd even go like 3.2. It's going too specific, but round start, he's got nothing. Every single game that I've played in season 1 in tournament, I've had to backdash. I've had to jump back. I'd have to be defensive from the start because he's got nothing that allows me to just guarantee a hit into assist or anything. Because a lot of his normals and specials are going to be really slow in that distance, in that round start distance. So that really knocks off some points for him in as a point character. But overall, if you know, if the characters are settled, if they are just kind of feeling each other out, then that's when he's strong. But at the start, round start, he's really, really weak, and I did suffer quite a bit from that. I'd have to be very defensive and just jump back and not risk getting, you know, whether it's Kid Buu 2-esque or base Vegeta, you know, rocket kick, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
There were a lot more round starts that would just completely outdo mine.
I mean, I'm cool with doing 3.2. Like I said, all the decimal points are available. So if Sage is cool with that,
Yeah, 3.2 sounds good, because I definitely can agree that Trunks at round start with no resources against the top tiers, especially, is rough. It's definitely rough. Like when 0 bars a meter, it's rough. It's rough to make it past round start for sure.
cool. All right, let's move on to mid. What do you think of Trunks as a mid out of 5?
I think this is where Lord now would come in and say that's a 10.
He does like that assist.
Yeah, because every time I go into a stream, it's always like, Trunks is not an anchor. You know, that's the first thing that he's saying. But I do agree with him. I do agree with him that as a mid, he is fantastic, because by that point, after you've lost a character, or, you know, when you do DHC into Trunks, you would have enough resources to run your stuff. So optimally, I would say that is like a very good position for him, because he will have the resources to run mix. He will have the space. You know, if you DHC into Trunks afterwards, you don't have to worry about run start unless you lose your point character. That's a different scenario. But I would say that as a mid, he works really well, really well. I don't know what score I'd give him yet, but it would be higher than point for sure, because at least you have something to start off with rather than building from the start at that point in time. So what do you think, Sage?
Trunks mid. It's very hard for me to say. I feel like Trunks mid and Anchor are like definitely his two best positions, but I really feel like it depends on your team structure. Because I think that Trunks, like, if you have a more suitable anchor on your team than Trunks, then it's probably better for him to be mid. But Trunks is also a very strong anchor because he can hold his own in neutral, and especially when he has access to sparking, he becomes a monster because all of his neutral tools are just heightened with Empty Vanish. So like, and he also gets he gets a left right off of his level 3, and his auto combo leads to a very good mix up as well, meterless. But the thing is with, yeah, I really think it depends on the team. Like I think that point is just the one place that you can't play Trunks. But as long as you're playing Trunks mid or anchor, it's probably like if it's not a 4.5, it's a 5, because you're able to use Trunks' assist for your point character, and then if your point character happens to fall or you are end up able, you're able to at some point in the match switch to Trunks. It's always better to be able to switch to Trunks later because you will have resources at this point, and if you haven't used sparking yet, your sparking will last for longer, and you want to be playing Trunks and sparking because he's an absolute monster in sparking. So in an instance where you play Trunks point, and let's say like you wanted to spark to save your point character, it's like now it's great that you're playing Trunks and sparking, but you're only going to play him for 8 seconds, which is not good. But if you play him mid, you're able to play him for 16 seconds, which is great. And if you play him anchor and he's your last character on limit break, you're able to play him for even longer amount of time. But I think mid is definitely, if it's not a 5, it's a 4.5 for sure. For sure. 'Cause he is you like Trunks is good solo. He's good solo and neutral, but he lacks like really good mix unless he has sparking. And he has to, if he's truly on his own, like if he's, let's say, if he's anchor and he's on his own, all your characters are dead, he has to land some honest hits to get his stuff going. And those honest hits could lead to his level 3 Oki, which is very good. But if you play him second, you can land, you don't have to play 4 honest hits. You can actually mix your opponent because you have another assist behind you. So yeah, I think Trunks mid is, if it's not a 4.5, it's a 5 for sure.
That's trying to max him out. What are you saying, Rudi?
Yeah, that's higher than what I would have said. I would have gone back to like 3.5, because even though he is strong, the reason why we deducted marks off the first one off point was because of round start, etc., and resources. Yeah, we're talking about mid Enigma, but yeah. So if you had the resources, etc., I would have put him as either 3.5 or a 4 max, because I think he's much better with the resources as anchor, especially as specialist spark. Did you say 4.5 minimum? No. Yo, this is our podcast, not ours, man.
Yeah. This is, don't fall into the trap of reading the chat. Like...
Exactly. But like personally, I would say 3.5 4 max for me, like because I think that he gets more marks as an anchor. And if you're already saying 4.5 or 5 mid, then we can't really go past 5 for an anchor.
Right. So
that's why I need to.
You want the mid position to have a lower score, so the anchor position has a higher score.
Exactly.
Right.
I think.
So
yeah.
Would you be alright with a 4.2 for mid?
I'd go for that.
Is that cool with you, Sage?
That's good. Yeah, I think that's good.
So I mean, anchor. I guess this is where we try not to give him a 5. I guess, right?
Yeah, I think anchor Trunks. Like, I personally think anchor is his best spot for sure. Because you will always, if your okay, so when you're building your team and you're thinking about how your team like will play if it dies in order, like if your point character dies and your second character dies, like if the thing for me personally is I think change the future assist is like it could be the best assist in the game, honestly. If depending on what you value in an assist. And I think having that assist available at all times, if your team dies in order, is like super strong. Like if your point character dies, then you will still have like Trunks' Change of Future or Masenko assist on deck for your mid character, which is incredible. And the other thing is that if you didn't spark on your first character, you're likely to save it for your anchor. And like Trunks' anchor, you know, he has incredible neutral on his own. He doesn't exactly need help in neutral at this point because you're gonna have meter by the time he's your last character on your team. And he he does a lot of damage. Like he actually does a lot of damage when he's in sparking and he lands his sparking mix-ups off of auto combo. Because while in sparking, he gains access to like solo left-right mix-ups that are very hard to deal with, and he has a bunch of other ways to just be really impressive with his neutral tools while he's in sparking. Because all of these moves that I said that are hard to hit confirm, like usually with Trunks, now that Trunks has access to empty vanish, they're actually much easier to hit confirm because you can vanish later than usual and confirm with jump light. So if you were to hit like 5S, or if you were to hit Change the Future in neutral and you empty vanish later, you will a lot of times still be able to confirm with his JL into damage, into a setup. And Trunks also on his own, on like knockdowns and stuff, if he's the last character in your team, he is able to he's able to safely meaty on like sliding knockdowns at like low risk with moves like Change the Future and Shining Slash, medium Shining Slash, because medium Shining Slash is plus one block, and it can cover, you know, it has a very tall hitbox, so it's able to cover up tech and the ground attack options. And even if the opponent delay techs, they have to delay tech for a very specific amount of time to even just take their turn back, not even get a punish, just to take their turn back. They have to delay for a very specific amount of time. And the same goes with Change the Future. If you meaty someone Change the Future, it has a ton of active frames, so the explosion kind of sits on their wake up, and it can cover. It has such a huge hitbox that it covers up the up tech and the immediate ground tech options, and it can also cover some of the delay tech as well. And like I said, they have to, like, the same goes for Change the Future as it goes for medium Shining Slash, where if they delay tech, they have to delay tech for a very specific amount of frames to even take their turn back. And if they delay tech for too long, Trunks is still at advantage. And yeah, he's just a monster sparking. He can really just like turn the tides of a match on his own.
I think I'm gonna assume what Rudy's gonna say. I think Rudy's not gonna want to give him a 5 because there's always something that you can. There's always a tool that someone doesn't have, right? And I know it kind of got mean to death about having a low 2L, but I do feel like Rudy will say that's the only reason you can't give him a 5, and maybe like a 4 point something. But I'll let Rudy correct me if I'm wrong. Is that what you're gonna say?
No. The low 2L thing is a meme because I think his current 2L is really strong. I mean, you've seen how much I mash it and people just can't instant air dash at me because of the hitbox. The hitbox is just so high that no one can instant air dash at me. It's so sick. No, he's good. Sage just mentioned a lot of what he possesses as an anchor that makes him really strong. But there's always something that you can do against them. I mean, look at someone like, for example, if you're running the same mix over and over again with Trunks, you know, whether it's the same side or cross up, if you're going for beams or Change the Future, someone like Bardock, for example, could just do the same motion, i.e. 2-1-4, the super dash button, and they can option select it. They can either punish your front beam or the back beam, because they can either go for the level 1, and you can't do anything about it because you've gone for a beam. You can't really empty cancel a beam, or you do a level 3. So some characters do have some answers to that, but for the most part, they would have to guess. But either way, they've got a 50-50 chance of them guessing right and punishing you for it. So until you condition them, to the extent that they can't press buttons with the other tools that you've got, then it's still going to be a risk. People can, get away from the mix-up by either trying to reflect or trying to level 3. I'd say level 3 is probably better, because at least you reduce the sparking time in that instance, and you get the knockdown, right? So the opponent is going to have some advantage in that scenario. But when you do get the hit, the best thing about Sparking Trunks is that you are gaining meter very, very quickly. So a lot of his mix-ups will allow you to re-jump, and when you do hold Vanished, you're going to be spending the meter cooldown is going to be a lot lower than if you just let the Vanish rock. So in that instance, when you do get a hit, it's going to hurt, and 2, you're going to be building a lot more meter so that you can probably run another mix-up afterwards, whether it's with level 3 if you find out you've got enough meter for that, or just another knockdown into a save jump into, again, another light. The fact that you've also got a lot more time to hit confirm from a beam also gives you time to could I say block confirm, where you don't have to hold the vanish, you just vanish and you've got the plus frames from that. So rather than, they get hit, yes, you hold vanish, you do the mix, you do the combo, you do the reject combo, etc. But if they block any of the beams, then you just don't hold the vanish, you just press vanish and you've got the plus frame. And you can run another mix up from there. So I do that a lot, where it's like, okay, you're going to block it, then I don't want to play RPS. I don't want to hold vanish and then you 2H or super dash at me, that kind of thing. I'm just going to get my plus frames back and run the same thing over and over again. And once they get scared of that, once they're like, you know what, I don't want to keep holding that mix up over and over again, and they start reflecting, depending on, how long the set is or the tendencies of the player, you might be able to call that out and get a 2M punish from that, etc., etc. So very, very strong. I can't disagree. I don't know what I'd give him. Honestly, he's got a lot of tools that a lot of characters don't have as anchors in that position. Obviously, unless you're Golden Freezer, you're getting so much more damage by being Golden and in Spark. But for the most part, not many other characters have that, where you're scared of them being in Spark and getting close to you. So it has to be pretty high. I'd definitely be at least like a 4.8, 4.7. I don't know what I'd give him to make it perfect, but again, there's always something you can do against him. I mean, Mr. Popo actually reacts to the left and right recently.
We don't bring his name here, man. Like, he's too much of an anomaly. You can't base stuff on Mr. Popo. That's not fair. It's not fair for the rest of us.
No, but I'm saying that there are people that can do it, and he does it. He actually does react to the left right, because he just plays against it so much, and he's practiced against it. And obviously he's really young anyway, but not a lot of people are going to do that, especially in the heat of the moment. They can't be as patient as Popo.
It's a strat that will get you to top 8, right? Then you might have to be a bit more creative. But if you just ran that strat until you got to top 8 or get out of pools, it would be fine, right?
Oh yeah, you'll be more than fine. People are just going to be so scared of getting hit that they're going to get hit. So it's just the way the game works.
I mean, I'm cool with doing the 4.8 if you and Sage are.
Yeah, that sounds good to me, because he definitely, there's some other things that he lacks in anchor position. Like, for instance, like if he is in the air, he doesn't really have a reliable way to stop you from super dashing at him other than jabbing it. But that's distant reliant. He's definitely strong in a lot of other ways, but he's definitely not perfect. But I think a 4.7 or 4.8. 4.8 is probably really good for him.
Cool.
For sure.
I've punched in 4.8. There's still a couple more things to go through. 3 more points. Next is assists. I changed this up slightly from the last Power Level chart I did with Subatomic Saber and RMZ, they made it make a bit more sense. Mine was a bit all over the place. So we've refined it. So there's 2 points again. It's going to be out of 10. One of the things that we're marking out of 10 is lockdown and keeping yourself safe with that assist. But we're talking about one assist. So we're talking about best case scenario, right? Because obviously change the future doesn't really lock you down. Doesn't lock your opponent down. It sets your opponent up.
You've chosen
and keeps,
for your final
keeps them from doing
resting
certain
place.
actions, but it doesn't lock them down for a mix-up. So yeah, out of 10, what would you rank Trunks' best assist for applying lockdown and keeping yourself safe? Rudi, do you want to go first?
Well, am I meant to pick an assist that does that better, or at least in my opinion?
Can we both say Masenko? I actually don't know what his third assist is. Is it Masenko? Masenko's his best one, right? For lockdown.
For
Lockdown?
lockdown,
Yeah.
even C assist is not too bad actually, because it does give you like plus 50 or something like that, and it tracks. But it's obviously not. Well, at least I don't use it enough for me to say it's worse or better. And I think that Sage is much better than I am in terms of knowing how to use Change the Future, because I don't think I used it well enough when I was playing him. But personally, I'd say that for lockdown, Masenko's better. But for many other things, Change the Future is better. Like I do suffer a lot when using Masenko in combos because of the hitbox. It pushes them a bit higher. I'm not able to confirm in certain scenarios. But in terms of if you're just talking about keeping the opponent in block stun, personally I'd say that Masenko is probably the better assist. But we might agree to disagree. I think. What do you think, Sage? What do you think is?
I definitely think Masenko is better for lockdown for sure. Beam assist, it just has superior block stun. Has about double the block stun actually. Now I think about it, and yeah, it definitely allows you to get more jailed, like true offense that Change the Future does not offer you. Like even just something as simple as like you're in sparking, you call Masenko assist and you empty vanish. Like getting like a high-low right there is very possible, but getting a high-low right there with Change the Future assist is almost never possible. Unless you're like empty vanishing off of a move that is already plus. Regardless, the Masenko assist is definitely superior for lockdown than Change the Future. Sure, like if you already have the opponent blocking, Masenko is definitely superior.
So if we use Masenko as the assist, I guess it's going to be one of those flat numbers because it's a beam. It does standard beam stuff, I'm guessing, block stun wise, and height. Is it the same height? I know I've heard, this is a rumor, I don't even know if this is true, like Goku Black's hits like 2 pixels higher than SSJ Goku's beam or something like that. I'm guessing Masenko is just a regular beam assist, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure
No.
it's regular. I'm not sure though, because I don't use the assist as much.
Yeah, Masenko assist hits. It doesn't hit. So if you think of Goku assist, it probably covers the top 75% of that assist. So you won't have the lower part, which affects a lot of the combos that I do. So for example, if I'm calling a beam assist and I'm running up with Kid Buu, a lot of times if I'm using Masenko assist, my 5M will whiff. If I'm not very close by it, if I do the 5M slightly later than usual, my 5M is going to whiff, which is really bad. Puts me in a very bad position. But that's never happened before with SSJ assist. So with his beam, it covers a lot more height, which allows for easier extensions. So in terms of that's what I was saying for lockdown, it's very good. But when it comes to applications for combos, etc., it does mess up a lot of stuff because it kind of thins out right at the end, which it does look it in the game as well, but that is the reality as well. The fact that it doesn't actually have a huge hitbox compared to other beam assists. I think there was a comparison at some point that was done for all the beam assists, and I'm sure Trunks was one of the worst ones.
I remember seeing that comparison for season 2. I didn't see the season 3 one, but it makes sense because there's so many different beams now, like Yamcha, Krillin. So many characters got beam assist, and yeah, that makes sense. I might have to go look for that. But yeah, visually, I definitely see. You see it with Gohan's Masenko as well. Just the Masenko beam, it's like a cone. It's like Trunks' 5X, where it starts big at the hands and then it thins out a little bit as it goes along. But I thought it was just a visual. I didn't know the Hurtbox worked to the visual. I thought it would just be like a flat beam. So I guess you'd want to mark it slightly lower, not much lower than a normal beam, right? Because it's a tiny bit less inconsistent. Well,
yeah,
less
I mean, Kubo himself is not running that because of the reasons that I've specified in terms of combos just not being consistent because of it.
How about that?
So instead of me using 5M a lot of the times, I'm having to use 5H with Kid after beam assist just to make sure that it does hit, that it's not going to whiff. So it's got some downsides, but for my team at least personally, the beam works better for me for how I want to play and how I want to optimize certain things. But because of the hitbox, etc., I'm having to change certain routes. I was about to say routes there. Let's keep it British. The routes, it does slightly affect my damage, but it's not too bad. So there are definitely upsides and downsides for that beam.
What would you say number-wise, you two? What we say, like if we take in consideration Masenko and C assist, I guess, because Change of Future isn't really done for like locking down your opponent. It controls part of the screen to bring them down to the ground, but it doesn't keep them pinned to the ground so you can do a mix-up. So if we just take in consideration Masenko, C assist, what would you say assist out of 10? What would you give it?
I think it's
both of them?
7. If it's like combined.
7?
They're pretty good, yeah. I don't use CSS personally, but it does do, what's on the tin. It gives you a load of blocks and it tracks. You can run a mix-up off of it. The only reason why I wouldn't want to use it for mix-ups is because as soon as you use that and you super dash, people are just going to guard cancel and you're not going to get anything guaranteed. And we know that Snap is just terrible in Season 3. But in terms of just locking you down for both of those assists, they're really good if we're talking about lockdown. So I'll give them a 7. 7.5? 7.5, something like that.
Yeah, in terms of just lockdown, it's probably 7.5. I could agree with that.
Yeah. Okay, cool. That one's kind of like the basic question. The next one is versatility, and that's incorporating all the assists. So if you've got a team, say you've got your two characters that you're definitely playing, you want to learn Trunks, and you're going, okay, I can use this assist for this sort of mix-up, I can use this assist for this sort of strategy, I can use this assist to win neutral, if that's what my team lacks. What would you say out of 10 is Trunks' assist versatility? What different strategies can he bring to a team due to his 3 different assists?
It's one pretty high, I think.
I think he has a lot of versatility. I think, for sure. I think like he has 2 of the best assists in the game, just like overall. It's like Masenko and Change the Future. I think they're definitely 2 of. Like Masenko's a beam, and we already know beam assists are very meta right now. But Change the Future assist is also like, there wasn't a lot of Trunks players like throughout the game's lifetime, but Change the Future assist is definitely a incredibly strong assist in neutral and for combos. So I think his assist versatility is really high. Actually, it's probably like a 9 or a 10, honestly.
I was going to go that high as well. I was about to say 10 because the fact that people just can't decide which one's better, and the way, for example, Sage plays differently compared to me just shows that he's got 2 assists that are very strong, and you can just use them in, completely different ways. So, and that's not even factoring in his C assist, because no one really uses that at the moment. But it still is strong. It tracks. It's got a load of blocks on, etc. It's very easy to combo off of. So I don't think it's got any bad assists. So that's why I'd give it. I'd probably give it a 10 as well, because you can't really go wrong with any of the ones that you pick. Obviously, factoring in the team and stuff. So, for example, I think Sage is running Change the Future now with Ultra Instinct. So in that, for example, team is able to do. Is that the case, Sage, or?
Yeah. Well, I've been playing it. Yeah, that's the team I'm living right now.
So, for instance, with that team, is able to do some tick rope setups that I might not be able to do with the beam. So, in that instance, maybe Change Future works better with Ultra Instinct, that kind of thing. So it's very easy to decide, should I pick this assist for this character or not? It's not a matter of, is this assist good? Does it work with this team? You have to pick one or the other.
It's kind of like if you play Anchor Trunks in Season 3, there's kind of no shell that makes you go, I can't play Trunks because this assist doesn't allow me to do something. Because his 2 assists, if we just take Change the Future and Masenko, they're so polarizing. It's like every character can work around at least one of those 2 assists.
I agree. Yeah, that's exactly what I'd say. Yeah.
That was me trying to sum up. Is that what we use heading for, Sage?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So I guess can we not give him a 10 here? That's kind of the question.
Does he get a 10? I think he does get a 10 actually. Probably does, because like all of his assists are great, and they're like they're all of his assists can help like every team in a different way almost. You could I feel like almost any team you could swap out like one of your characters for Trunks and either choose A or B assist, and you would see some benefit, or you'd still be able to. Your strategy wouldn't change too much for your team, like almost no matter what team it is, just because of how different both of the assists are, but how great both of the assists are.
Okay, I mean, I'm guessing you're not going to disagree with that, Rudi?
I'm definitely on board with that. I do agree. That is the case.
Straight 10, yeah, no arguments. So, he's the first. Well, I mean, he's only the second character I've done, but he's the first one to get a 10, and I think it's going to be pretty hard to even argue that. And we didn't even really take in consideration the 3rd assist. It was just the 2, because they're just, like I said, so polarizing. We've got 2 more points. We are going to talk about solo damage next. That's out of 5. This is damage without assists. Marking them out of 5. If you want to take into consideration screen positioning, what was the other thing? You could think about spark and limit break, but just no assists. How does Trunks fare? For a comparison, the Cell players gave Cell a 4.25
out of 5.
Out of 5.
Okay.
Out of 5.
Okay.
That was them thinking, okay, what does he do mid-screen? What does he do in the corner? And from what I remember, the consensus was Cell can hit you twice anywhere and you die.
Yeah, that is true for Cell.
Has Trunks got something similar where he's that dominant when it comes to damage on his own? Well, not on his own, without assists.
So we're just talking about damage right now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just raw damage.
Actually, I think Trunks, at least Trunks mid-screen, he really, now he has some things that he can do with EX Flip to extend damage. But, even then, it's not too much. So, if we're talking about mid-screen, he doesn't really have anything out of the ordinary. Kind of just always has to go for, just solo. He has to go, if he wants a knockdown, he would just have to go into a J2H launcher or if he 2-8 to just super dash or something, and then just do normal basic ABC double jump ABC combo. And then he does get a re-jump off 5H, which is good. So he does have that. But like other than that, like mid-screen, his mid-screen like combos are very just like very vanilla. Like he doesn't do anything special, honestly. And then in the corner though, he does get some good damage, and he gets access to snap. He gets access to like combos off of Change the Future. Because Change the Future gives you a wall bounce in the corner, and that boosts his damage by a good amount. But even then, it's nothing too spectacular, unless you're hitting like medium starters. Like if you're hitting medium starters with Trunks in the corner, he gets like 5k on his own. But a lot of times, you're not hitting a 2M with Trunks like raw. You're not like starting unless you're like giving a reflect punish. But overall, his damage out of 5, it's probably like a 3.5 to a 3. Outside of like sparking, well, I gotta think about sparking too, right?
Mhm.
Sparking, he could do some really good things like off of his like his auto combo mix-ups. If you use empty vanish, like if you do like light, and then you stay same side or cross up Masenko, and then you empty vanish,
Mhm.
you get a re-jump off of that, and that does pretty good damage for what it is. But I don't think like in terms of like the amount of meter he builds off of his combos, and well, we're not even talking about meter right now, but like just like the damage,
Yeah.
especially outside of sparking, is definitely not that high. I don't think, especially off of like the usual starters. Like if you hit someone with like a jump in, or if you're hitting someone with uh like light attack, like a stagger or something,
Mhm.
or a punish of some sort. Um, damage isn't too high, but he does get like off of his mix-ups, because the thing about Trunks is that with his EX flip, if he does like he's doing mix-up EX flip and he's using 5M for the mix-up, because he can go for left right mix-up with his 5M. The damage on that, especially near the corner, like that's like an opportunity where if you have them in the corner and you decide, like if you have them in the right corner and you go for left right and you choose the left side and they get hit, you get to do a medium starter Change the Future combo, which actually does a lot of damage. He gets like 5k on his own. But like I don't know, it's hard for me to say, because sometimes I feel like Trunks really does just explode you because
Mhm.
of the fact that his mix-ups, like he can do a mix-up and it's not like other characters where they mix you and it's like you get mixed off a Crouch Light or you get mixed off a JL. Like Trunks can mix you with 5M, which is like unheard of for most characters. So like in the right cases, like in the corner, he does get big damage off of these moves, and it's very possible for him to hit them. But like generally, like generally, you are not doing much damage to Trunks, I feel like.
Yeah. It feels like you get hit. You're watching the combo, then you're not ready for the next one, and then he kind of he doesn't like whittle away at you. It's meaningful damage, but you don't just disintegrate. Like if TN hits you or S Brody hits you, like when those two characters hit you, you're checking to see if you've got more than 80%. Like unless Trunks is
Sure.
doing like raw heat dome, you're not looking at your health bar thinking I'm probably not gonna survive this most of the time.
Yeah, definitely, definitely.
What you say, Rudy? What do you think? how do you feel when you're sparked with Trunks, you limit break, and you land a 2M? What's going through your mind? It's probably not, this guy's dead, right?
Yeah, it's like yeah, you're getting some damage, but it's not gonna be it's not gonna be explosive. The hits that you're gonna get where you're thinking, yes, let's go, is again, like say just mentioned, 5M in the corner. That's when you're like, this is fantastic. Well, if it's like a 2M mid screen, or you get a 2M and you're cornered and you're having to put them back into the corner, you're gonna have to use that flip, and you lose a lot of damage anyway. So it's not that great. I don't think his damage alone is that great. Positioning is very important. So I can't really give him a huge score on that, because yeah, you need to land a mid for it to be huge. Otherwise, it's not. So I'd give him a lower score, not too low, but I'd say somewhere in between, like a 3. I'd say like a 3. He can explode you, but positioning, baiting you, landing a mix-up, etc., that's gonna all factor in, or have to be factored in to be any higher. Because again, it just needs to be off a standing medium, not a 2M. It has to be a standing medium.
Yeah,
because there's no way you're going to be hit confirming, a 2M interchange in the future. That's not going to happen. And even if you do, you're going to have to be right in the corner, because if you do a 2M interchange in the future when you're kind of further away from the corner, it might not wall bounce because you'd need the ult combo for that. So there's no way that he's going to be really highly ranked in that aspect. So I'd probably give him a 3.
3 out of 5,
like
yeah?
Yeah.
I think 3 is good. I think 3 is good.
3? Okay, cool. All right, we're on to the last point now. A little bit arbitrary, but this is looking at Trunks' neutral. He's going to be pretty high, right? 1-on-1 solo. How does he fare? I obviously, it's going to depend on who he's up against, but I think with Trunks, I can't think of many characters that straight up just counter Trunks as like Trunks the character. Again, I could be wrong. That's why I'm asking you guys, and I can feel Rudi smirking. So tell me, like 1-on-1, marks out of 10, how does Trunks fare when it comes to being a solo character? No assists behind him, and no assists on his opponent's side.
Okay.
First matchup that comes to mind, sorry for cutting you off the stage. First thing that comes to mind, and it's giving me proper nightmares still, is Hitman, because Hit is proper annoying.
I was gonna bring him up too. That's so funny.
So annoying, man. Like, I remember playing against RMZ in Hellzone 2, and there were so many occasions where it'd be like Trunks versus Hit 1v1. Obi's laughing in the chat. Nah, ban Obi, man. But he knows. He knows the pain, because like a 5S, a whip 5S, and he's there doing his EX stance. You just know that you're done for. It's really annoying. Some matchups are very annoying. Hit is definitely one of them. For the most part, he's very strong. I'd say he's very strong. Very, very strong. Solo, even with that caveat. But yeah, it's the one that comes to mind where it just comes to, you just can't do anything, you just can't whiff anything, is Hit. But aside from that, I mean, I'm not even bringing Broly up, because you can change the future through a lot of his 5S. I'm pretty sure that goes through his 5S. 5S. Sorry. His changing feature beats Broly 5S if you time it right.
Okay.
But using 5S against him, you get blown up. So that's not great. But it's doable. So from so many characters, I'm only thinking of Hit, to be honest, in terms of who's really hard to deal with. So straight up, I'd give him at least an 8.59 in terms of solo play. The only other annoying thing is when they jump over your 5S. That's so annoying. But that's just something where you have to get used to. You have to be patient enough to throw it at the right time and not get Street Fighter jumped on.
I think so I have a few problem characters with Trunks in a 1-on-1. One of them is definitely Hit though. His blue stance and his 5S counter are very hard for Trunks to deal with. I also think Broly is a matchup that's it. You like his. The thing about Broly is his 5S is kind of nullified against Trunks because he has Change of Future. And Trunks also has 5S, which beats Broly's 5S. But they did buff Broly's barrier, which makes it if he does throw the, if like if Broly puts on barrier, all of Trunks' good neutral tools are now like useless, which is really bad for Trunks. And another thing about Broly is his God Press or whatever it is, the big clothesline. Uh, that has complete armor, and if he throws it out, and Trunks, is throwing out Change the Future, thinking that Broly's gonna do 5S, and Trunks gets taken to the corner, and it's not fun with Trunks. Uh, Another character I feel like Trunks has trouble with is Cooler because of Cooler's 3H. Uh, Cooler's 3H, it has immunity to all projectiles, but Trunks can't use 5S, Trunks can't use Change of Future, and Trunks can't use Masenko, which is really devastating. The other thing too is that Cooler's 3H has head property. It beats head and ball attack, so Trunks can't even resort to using medium Shining Slash in neutral as much as he wants to. The other characters, let me think. I'm looking at the character selector right now. I can see what other characters give me trouble. I also do not like fighting. Not fighting. There was someone else I was looking at, and I already forgot who it was. Hold on, give me a sec here. I'm looking for them.
No problems, no problems.
Well, I'll tell you. Okay, well, now that I'm looking here, I'll tell you what. Like some characters, like Vegeta, like characters that have strong Ki Blast game, Trunks just annihilates them a lot of the time. Like Vegeta, Trunks has a very good time against Vegeta. Other than Vegeta, like Super Saiyan Vegeta, other than Super Saiyan Vegeta's EX Missile Kick, Trunks doesn't really have much to worry about in neutral against Vegeta, because he likes to play Ki Blast game. Trunks is a very anti-Ki Blast character. Who else? Oh, the Brolys. I already said Z Broly. Another thing about Z Broly is that if Trunks wants to take to the air, like if he wants to try and close the gap with the EX flip and stuff, Z Broly not only has an air-to-air armored command throw, but Z Broly also has 2H with a huge hitbox, and it's also armored. And he can't. A thing that you could do with Trunks is like, you approach your opponent with EX flip from far away, and the opponent does have the opportunity if they're grounded 2H. But Trunks during Cyclone Flip, if he does press JS, his JS has much more hits than it's supposed to, and Trunks can actually combo off of EX flip into JS a lot of times. But Broly's 2H also has Ki Blast immunity along with the armor, so Trunks can't even. It's also hard for Trunks to get in on Broly with the EX flip. Even if he's trying to bait out the 2H with S, Broly's 2H would still beat that as well. Other character. Oh yes, this is the character I was gonna say. 18, Android 18, because Android 18 in a one-on-one against Trunks. Of course, Android 18 doesn't want to call or use her Ki Blast, but Android 18 does have the Destructo Disc, and Android 18 has the 17 assist call, like barrier and stuff, that could really protect her from Trunks' neutral tools in a lot of cases. And let me see who else here is annoying, right? As Trunks. I think that's about all the problem characters I could think of right now. Jiren too on the low, just because Jiren has the special counter that kind of stops Trunks from using his special moves. His really good special moves in neutral. It doesn't entirely shut it down, but it's just something It's annoying. And Jiren also has a really good 5S, just like Trunks. And this is one of the few matchups where Trunks can't use his 5S to blow through another person's 5S.
Right.
Jiren's 5S is in a regular Ki Blast. Um, Other than that, though, most of the cast Trunks actually does like very well against in neutral. Like even the characters that Trunks doesn't do that well against, other than like Broly and Cooler. I think Broly and Cooler are the two characters that give Trunks the most trouble in a one-on-one. Just because of it's literally only because of Cooler's 3H, and you know, the fact that Trunks' air normals, as great as they are, Cooler's air normals are just that much better in terms of horizontal reach. So it's very hard to even have an air-to-air battle with Cooler, and then you trying to use any of your grounded special moves against Cooler is rough too. Only thing Cooler has to think about when he's throwing out 3H is that Trunks has a slide. So if Cooler does get too predictable with his 3H, Trunks could just press 2M and blow him up for it. Cooler also has a few other options, like he has dive kicks to hit Trunks with. He has his own Ki Blast that's really fast. Yeah, other than that, I think overall though, like Trunks does super good against like majority of the cast. Like definitely like a 9. Definitely. If we're talking out of 10, definitely has to be.
Yeah. What you
A
saying,
lot of
Rudy?
it. A lot of the characters that Trunks struggles against are not really like meta characters. You don't see them play that much, so it's like you don't really have to even deal with those bad matchups as much as you would think.
Yeah, I'd say around the same as well. I think the only thing Trunks is missing, and it's not a low 2L, it's a level 3 that hits airborne. That's one thing that I found hard going from like Super Saiyan Goku to Trunks again, is that a lot of fake stuff that's being vanished into, etc. You know, like a Ki Blast into Vanish, or Wolfang Fist into Vanish now, which doesn't jail. The best that you can get now is just a Reflect and then you're back to neutral. At least before I was able to level 3 that, but now it's just you can't do that. The level 3 will whiff. I don't know why, but I'm pretty sure, I swear in season 1 it was possible, but they've changed something, because I'm sure I've done it at some point. But yeah, now you can't level 3 anything. You can't do anything that can beat out the Vanish. Let's say compared to Kid Buu, who can EX grab, or either Gohan, who can DP. Yeah, you just have to. Well, that's a lot of characters, to be fair. You just have to hold it. But that would be like the only change I'd say that would make Trunks like top 3, like minimum, because that would just mean that
It really would, though.
What was that? Sorry, Sage?
Oh yeah, like it really would. Like you're 100% right. That would be a big game changer for Trunks. Or if they gave him even one move that was like head involved frame 1, I don't know what it would be, but it would definitely help Trunks tremendously.
So, oh, go on. Sorry, Rudy.
No. I was just gonna say that's literally it. I guess the versatility of his level 3s as well. If they somehow, I don't know, someone's probably gonna shoot me in the chat. But if you somehow manage to choose which side you want the level 3 to happen, which will obviously never happen, that would obviously just push him up to the top.
That would be a change. That would actually be, because you can do that with Bluku, right?
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. Why can't they do that with Trunks?
Yeah. I'm trying to think, is there anyone else but Bluku that can do that? I don't think so.
I mean, they did it with Vegeta for some reason, thinking that it's going to be a buff, but you can't choose side. I think that's what people thought you could do. Sorry, it's not his level 3, his EXDP, where it would always switch sides. So they kind of have that idea going, but if that happens, it's a huge game changer. It's like it would be very, very huge, which is why I can't give him a 10, but minimum of an 8, 9 in terms of that last part. It's it's a given. But those two things would just really push him even higher than where he is now. Even though now he's already minimum top 10, of course, or top 5 for a lot of people. But
Damn.
it would just really cement him as, you know, definitely one of the best in the game. You just have to have him in your team.
Okay, so do you want to go for a
Someone in
9?
the chat also brought up a good point. Sorry to cut you off.
No.
But that Janemba is another character that because he has that projectile counter.
2-2S.
It really throws a wrench in if used properly, it does throw a wrench in Trunks' game plan. Along with the fact that Janemba has the sword slash poke, which you know, is faster than Change the Future and covers just about the same amount of distance on the ground, not vertically, but it does cover horizontal distance just as well.
Yeah.
So that is another matchup that is a little bit troublesome for Trunks at times in a one-on-one, for sure. I've definitely had trouble with that one.
He also doesn't have the luxury of Trunks can't 5S Janemba's 5S because his 5S tracks.
Yeah, it won't just like beat it outright.
Yeah, you've got to snuff out Janemba. You can't beat his projectiles. You have to just hit Janemba before his S's come out. So, yeah, he's kind of... It's like his tools were kind of meant to counter Trunks, ironically.
No way. Weird. That's true.
So, yeah, did you guys want to settle on a 8 or a 9? For
I think a 9 is good for Trunks in a one-on-one. Because aside from... like, the characters that do give him problems, a lot of the times they're, like, not... First of all, a lot of them aren't, like, meta characters. And secondly, a lot of them aren't anchors. So, that's another thing, that's a big thing about Trunks. Like, you won't end up having to fight them in a one-on-one most of the time. So I think that allows Trunks to get that 9 rating, in my opinion.
Cool. Rudy, are you on board with a 9? Did you want to try and
No, I'm not gonna try and downplay anything. I'm definitely happy with that.
Damn. Well, okay. So that's the end. That's it. Thank you guys for your input. Super appreciated. Before I tell you the scores, what do you guys think he scored out of 110?
Out of 110?
Yep.
Out of 110.
Just knocked off one here and there. I'd say around like 98. We didn't knock off that much off of him, so I'd say probably like a 98, 97. He probably got.
Yeah, I would say like somewhere between 95 and 100.
That's mad. Okay, so he actually got 85.
85, okay.
He got 85, yeah. So, but...